Our informational meeting is now called to order with members John, Young, Jasper, and Vicky in attendance, and Carly, Amy, and Marilyn also here. And Marilyn is going to start us out.
Thank you. I'm the treasurer for the Monmouth Independence Community Foundation, and I've been on their board for, I think, since the last century. But we have an annual statement we put out every year as to what all the partners' funds are looking like. And I sent the statement to Vicky, not to Vicky, I'm sorry, to Carly. I also sent one to the Heritage Society. And the balance right now is $15,289.97 in endowment and $370.80 in non-endowment. Of those funds, 7,559 are restricted by Heritage Museum as being the basis for the endowment fund. 7,730.97 are the funds that are available for withdrawal, and we usually have withdrawals a couple of times a year. And the next one, I believe, is coming up in June, May or June. So if the society decides to withdraw some money, they could also dissolve the partner fund if they needed to use all of those funds. I will tell you that last year, even at the halfway point, it looked like every fund was losing money because of the stock market. But at the end of the year, our gain for the entire year was 11.9%, which is a pretty good return.
Awesome.
And because of the gains and the addition of other partners, the Community Foundation is now managing over $2 million of local funds. So that's my report. Your liaison, partner fund liaison. And if you decide you want to take any monies out, if you have any questions about anything, I'm the one that you would contact. The end.
Well, thank you for that information and glowing report. That's an amazing amount of money.
I also told Carly that if the society decides to do some fundraising, or if the board decides to do fundraising, I would be very happy to be on the committee that does the fundraising and help get things started off. I'm pretty experienced in that. So with that, I will bid you adieu.
Thank you. So you have to leave our meeting now?
Thanks,
I do.
Marilyn.
Okay, well, thank you for being here.
And I have nothing to bring you from the council other than their strident expectation that the building will begin soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. While we're mentioning the society, Carly, are they going to be meeting again soon?
Yeah, they're setting up a time for next month because they're starting to have conversations about how much money they're going to pull from their accounts to gift to the museum for the construction, to go towards the construction.
Great, thank you. We have on the agenda next, since we cannot do any minutes, the Gentle House loan. Do we have an update on that?
Yeah, we do. So a couple months ago, Amy and I went over to the Gentle House and we worked with Madeline there. And actually, we took some of the items from their collection, and it's now in the museum. I'm working on kind of cataloging some of those, but it's been a little bit slower than I wanted to be. But we're working on it. We're excited to potentially have a little Gentle House kind of exhibit focusing on the Gentles and their contributions to Western Oregon University and And actually, we're really excited about the idea of focusing it from like the Mrs. Gentle's perspective, because that's a perspective that's not always really highlighted, but she was very active in both Independence and Monmouth communities. So we're excited for that. Amy, do you have anything to add to that? Oh, Amy, your
Can't
mic
hear
is
you.
off.
That's funny because I was just saying, I think you covered it all.
Oh, thank you.
Is that going to be a rotating exhibit or a static one?
Honestly, it's at our discretion. The loan is with the understanding that it is not going to always be on exhibit based on what the needs of the museum are at the moment. It's more of an agreement of we are going to house and occasionally use this for exhibits, or if depending on space when we get in there and start like moving stuff around, if it makes sense to have a permanent exhibit, we'll keep it there. But it's just with the understanding that we'll utilize it when we want to and when it makes sense. But then ultimately down the line, when it's appropriate, it'll be given back to the Gentle family, and there'll be some sort of small exhibit possibly on Western Oregon's campus.
Yeah.
And exhibit in our museum on the campus, or there will be an exhibit at the campus on the Gentles?
There will be an exhibit on the campus about the Gentles,
Okay.
but that it's the general gist of it is that they, the Gentle family, or the descendants of the Gentle family, are wanting to have the Gentle collection on exhibit where it makes the most sense, which it would make the most sense that on Western's campus they would have an exhibit to it. And we want to respect their wishes, but we also want to have the ability to care for these items and to have an exhibit on our own. So who knows what it'll be in the future? Maybe it will be a collaboration between us and Western Oregon, but we're not sure what that's going to be yet.
Since I don't know a lot about the Gentles, although I have been to several gatherings there, will our exhibit have information about Western included, or?
So I can jump in here just to let you know that where the Gentle collection will be on display in the new museum location is in an area that in the layout we're calling the community neighbors, and it's going to focus on Woo, Buena Vista, pottery, the kind of things that are happening around Independence but that are significant to us. So that's where Mrs. Gentle's collection will be.
Great, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Do you have examples of some of the things that might be in the collection that we'd be exhibiting?
From the Gentles. So we have her vanity, Mrs. Gentle's vanity, Mrs. Gentle, some of her artwork and her embroidery, some of her books, a lot of her clothes from kind of that teens, 20s era. Her other items like books and music, those are staying on Woo's campus. So we have a portion of her collection.
Great, thank you.
That'll be kind of nice and a nice transition, since my understanding is some of the things like the parlor and the kitchen and some of those things won't be there. So that will give us some of the time period kind of traditional things that some people look for in a museum.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll fill that opportunity that some people would be looking for when they came in. So that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
On to new business, construction update. We're all excited to hear what's on the horizon.
Yeah, so I believe it was last week. Now I'm getting my weeks put together. We had our kickoff construction meeting. Yes, it was last Wednesday. We had our kickoff construction meeting on site. We just kind of talked about how responsibilities were going to be delved out and looked at the timeline. As of right now, it's looking like construction will be completed by mid-July. which we're really excited about. It's construction though, so you never really know what the final timeline is going to be like, but we're excited about, honestly, the idea of just being in the new site by the end of 2021. I know Amy and I are both missing having visitors come through and having a museum that actually looks like a museum and not a storage facility. So we're really excited about it. Yeah, does anyone have any questions? We just had the kickoff meeting last week, so I don't really have a ton of updates beyond that. Other than when we were digging, they did some concrete cutting on Tuesday or on Monday. For some of the plumbing that's going to be going in, and they found what looked like to be a cistern underneath the floor, like just a gigantic hole that looked like it went down about 6 feet, which was pretty cool. It's the kind of stuff that you just don't know is going to be there until you start doing the construction.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
But it's just very, very exciting, and we're looking forward to it. So does anyone have any questions?
Jasper, sorry.
Did you have something, or?
I did, but go ahead.
I was just asking if you are documenting kind of the construction process. I mean, will you have pictures of, the cistern and the different phases of construction, so we can kind of even have a history of the museum?
Yeah, we have bi-weekly construction meetings that I have to go over there for, so I'm taking photos every time we go. The cistern photo I have is not really great, just because there's no lights in the building right now. So there's not really a good way to photograph it. So I have a photo that shows that it is a cistern, but you wouldn't know it was a cistern unless I told you it was a cistern. But we will be documenting, and I think that's a great thought.
Given they're a hole in the ground, they're not the easiest thing to I mean, I remember my grandmother's, and it was just this covered big hole that we always knew don't fall in. So I was wondering, this is a little bit off construction, but I'm assuming, but not knowing how things with COVID are going to be, that the museum is going to remain closed until okay.
Yeah, everything's pretty much boxed up. So there's not really anything for people to see. We are having conversations, Amy and I are, with the American Legion Post about possibly restarting the veterans event once a month, because it is outdoor and a small group and very easy to be done socially distanced. But that's still a conversation that we're having, and we'll update you guys when we have more. But beyond that, Amy and I are pretty much just plugging along.
And with things, I know Polk County has moved up a step from, really bad to moderately bad, or I mean, I can't remember the names of how they go, but I assume that you're not working at the same time now still.
Yeah,
okay.
Correct.
So also still no volunteers able to come in and help out then, because
Yeah, at this point, a lot of it is just because we need a lot of technology for it. Like, a lot of this is what we're doing right now is very computer based, and we don't really have any options for moving the computers, and that space is just so small.
Sure.
But we are. I mean, I know we can always use help with research, and I know, Vicki, you've been super helpful with some genealogical stuff. So we're always looking for help specifically with that. But for in-person volunteering right now, it's just kind of difficult to manage.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still working on some things on the Holtz and Valsetts, and I did get a lead from, forgot to ask Marilyn when she was here, someone who had also been up there I was there in the 80s, but even quite a while before then. So I'm trying to get some more information. Well, that's
Really
exciting.
Do you have anything to add?
I don't know when you want me to update numbers, but I can do curator number reports anytime. So just let me know when you want me to pop in with those. And we
I was
also,
gonna defer to you during the museum manager part because I still have not added the curator's corner portion on it, and I apologize.
it's
It's
okay.
the state of copy and pasting agendas from 8
Right.
months ago.
We have Andrea Pittman also working on some research for helping us update something that will go into the new location as well. So anyone else who wants to help with that kind of thing, contact me and Carly in an email and we can send a project your way.
Great. Thank you. Historic district interpretive panels.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this. I got approached by Sean and Fred to talk about some sort of project, group project that we could do with the historic district, with the Historic Design Commission, to kind of just take what we've been doing in the downtown where there's a lot of interpretation, there's like a lot of historic preservation, all of this stuff. How can we kind of expand that energy to the historic neighborhoods where people are living, to kind of show that the city is, we have a lot of pride in our historic neighborhoods, and we want the people that live in those parts of the communities to know that, and we want to encourage people to kind of explore outside of downtown. And we came up with this idea of doing interpretive panels that will create kind of like a historic home walking loop. That's not the same as the historic district like walking pamphlet. This will be more, this will be pretty much in the same style as the Willamette River Trail interpretive panels that we did before. And I'm just kind of starting the research in on that because we want it to tell more of a diverse story. We want to talk about things like the Chinese laundry and the certain, like the different hotels that were down there, as well as the history of some of these buildings and the people who owned the buildings and built the homes. But it's kind of vague right now because we're just kind of going down that rabbit hole to see what we can find, and then go from there to create what the trail will exactly be like. But we applied for a grant with the Trust Management Services, which is a grant organization that does grants in different counties of Oregon, and they only come to Polk County every 2 years. And so this was our year for it. We applied, we had our first, they do a little follow-up interview with you if they think your application makes sense and is a good fit. And so Sean and I got to meet with a representative from there. And so hopefully if we get this $10,000, it'll go to put up 5 interpretive panels, creating that loop. And I'm really excited because we got such a great feedback from the riverfront panels that I think that this is a logical expansion of that.
That is,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, that is really exciting. I was in several years ago, back when we could travel, I went to see family in South Dakota and saw some panels like that. Well, they weren't quite panels, but that kind of thing. And I was so excited and have always hoped that we could do some kind of thing like that for our historic area. So that is super exciting. So thank you. Thank you. That's great.
Thanks. It'll be in conjunction with a project that the Historic District Commission, am I saying that correct, Sean?
No, it's Historic Preservation Commission.
Historic Preservation Commission. I apologize. I feel like every community has a slightly varying
I know.
of, of the same thing.
Right.
But it's in conjunction with a project that they're doing, which is hopefully using certified local government funds to kind of create a program to encourage homeowners to maintain their properties. So we're just really, really excited for the fact that this is something that not only makes sense for the museum, but it makes sense for the commission and just fits with Independence's overall goals.
Yeah, that just seems all encompassing for so many things. That's great.
When do you find out if it was awarded?
I want to say May. I
Okay.
believe it's May. I tend to not always get hung up on the find out date because then I'm not anxiously awaiting it. But I feel really good
okay.
after the chat with the woman.
Yeah,
And that's the,
good.
I get some of our commissions and boards with the city mixed up, and that's with historic preservation, is that? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
And historic preservation, that's also the one that like decides on if you can cut a tree or are all those kinds of things. Is that the right? I get that.
Right, and if you're
sometimes a little mixed up.
if
So,
you're making changes to historic buildings, then you have to put in the applications. So
okay. Great. Thanks, John, for that clarification. Museum videos.
yeah. So we're at the beginning of this journey where Amy and I are working on creating short video, like informational videos that are kind of going to be a preview of the new site. We're going to basically take some of the content that we've already researched and restructure it, and so that it's like in a video and we can roll it out. We're starting off because this is not in our normal wheelhouse. We're kind of starting off really slowly with like trying to make like one video a month or so, and working with Ramon. He's been kind enough to offer to help us to put those together because he's done such a wonderful job, especially with the transportation plan videos and whatnot that have been put out by the city. Ours might not be quite on that level because ours are going to probably be more like photo based with voiceover. But we're starting to put together some ideas. Amy's been really deep in researching on it. And I'm going to turn, do you have anything that you would like to add to that, Amy? I know you've been doing a lot of research.
Well, it's just that if you have ideas for topics that you're thinking you'd like to see, please let us know. And other than that, yeah, I've just been doing some brainstorming on which topics to cover. Different, like, do we want to aim it at different like historical locations, or so we still have a lot of work to do with that. But we've also received word from the society that they want to help, so we'll talk about that at our meeting next month. And we should be able to make some really nice ones and get those going out so that the museums being able to present to the community that what's going on behind the scenes, and that we're still here and working, but even though we're closed. So
Well, that sounds
I have
great.
an idea. I have an idea that I don't know if it's too late now that you've been boxing things up so much, but as far as doing a video of, the current museum before it's all gone, and people that come back a few years later and say, oh, I didn't even know you'd moved, and or just to document that it was there since 76 and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have, even if we can't take pictures of it today, we have photos going back from events that have taken place here in old exhibits, and I'm sure we could pull something. That's a good idea.
And in the society office downstairs, I think there are maybe a couple of scrapbooks or things. I know that when Kathy was head of the society, she was working on putting some of those pictures in scrapbooks from a couple of the events, like maybe her first birthday party or something like that. So there might be some things there. I don't know if it's possible to take anything from that iBook thing that was created kind of before all of us were involved.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
We might be able to download it and just
Another idea we had was to showcase some of the things about this building that will be missed in the new location, like a time lapse of the sun rising and setting behind the stained glass.
Oh,
Like smaller, that video would actually take some effort to produce, but it would be a shorter, like time lapse type video. So we can do a variety of like educational and then also just short interest videos.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really like about,
excuse me.
one of the things that you go, Vicki.
I was gonna say, I don't know if there's even anything in that iBook worth pulling, but I didn't know if there was any, you know, in terms of pictures of past exhibits.
Right.
One of the things that I'm really excited about for the video is that we can show them in the new site. And I know Jasper has been really big on the idea of some sort of like an intro video when we come in. And so that might be a good way for us to kind of either repurpose it to be that or to whet our chops so that we could create something like that.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be a really good idea. And I know I need to touch base with you about that a little bit more tomorrow, Amy.
That sounds good.
That'll
Now,
be good.
you said the society was going to assist. Is that with funding for putting it together?
That's my formal way of saying that the member I'm married to is excited to help.
Oh, okay, got it. Silly me. I think that's a great idea.
He's good with the editing and is excited to learn about the equipment and has offered to help and wants to discuss with the society further how they might help. So
Great. Well, Carly, you're officially on now with the manager report. If we haven't
I'm
covered it.
losing all audio. I don't know if,
Well,
we can hear you.
we can hear you.
okay, well, I'm just getting every fifth word.
Oh, no.
No. Well, if you want to leave and call back, I can re-enter you at that point if you think that might help.
Yeah, let me try doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, let me try doing that. Good idea.
Okay. Hey, isn't that like tech 101? Just turn it off and turn it back on.
Right.
Really?
And I just tried to turn it off and it all came back again.
Yeah. Trying to
So
hang
are
up and I
are we
can't.
doing a
There we
talk
go,
amongst
leave.
ourselves while we wait for John
Okay,
to
there
come
we
back?
go. Remember, well, we're still recorded right now. I guess I could pause here. I'll pause it. Yeah, so museum manager's report. Pretty much everything that we've already talked about is what I would add into this part. We are in budget season, so I'm just finalizing all of the end of year stuff and doing our proposal for next year. But that's the beginning stages. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I have, and I'll turn it over to Amy.
Okay.
Before Amy starts, could I just add a comment that I noticed in reviewing the minutes from, and I keep forgetting, well, we haven't had a meeting, but minutes from the city council when they have the report from those monthly meetings, that I've noticed that Carly, you are in attendance at those, which is really exciting because in the structure before, the museum wasn't directly represented there. So it's really exciting to have you with a seat at the table. And so thank you for being there and doing that. I mean, that's, to me, that's like a huge step to have that specific voice at the table. So awesome.
Thank you.
Sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Fantastic museum manager. We're lucky to have her.
Oh, thank you.
Both of you.
I can give you a report. It's a boring numbers-based report, but otherwise what I'm doing is invisible. So I prepared the numbers since it's behind closed doors. At this point in time, I base this on since we've closed last March. So from March to March, this is what we've done with the collection. And we have updated 5,785 of our individual records in the database.
Wow.
2,628 of those were added fresh, meaning they were items, archive objects, library items that were here, but were not in the database. So that's great. So our collection total has gone up since last year. We have a collection totaling around 14,000 items. And in 2018, Vicki and I were, before I was employed here, we got a grant to do a sample inventory project. I'm sure you remember that, Vicki.
Oh, yeah.
We found at the end of the sample inventory that 80% of the items in our database were not saved with a location. So it was impossible to find items in the museum based on using our database, which is kind of what it's for. So while the doors have been closed, one of the strengths has been that I've gotten to kind of work on that. So behind the scenes, as I've been packing and updating, this week I did another sample inventory. So the same amount of items, they're randomly selected from the data from our Past Perfect program. I went through the random sampling, and we've turned it around from 80 negative, 20 positive to a 70 positive, 30 negative.
Wow.
So it's really, and all of the items that were in the sample inventory that were not saved with the location yet, we're in our archives. In our archives, that makes sense because I've only gotten about 30% through the archives. Takes a lot longer with individual pieces of paper.
Oh, yeah.
So we've come a long way with our collection in terms of once we move to the new spot, of course, everything will be a mess, but we'll be able to go to the database, and instead of not knowing where things are, we can just go to a specific box number and we'll know where something is. So we're getting in better and better shape as far as that goes.
And Amy deserves all of the credit for that too. I just want to put that out there. Like she is a cataloging queen. Like I
Cataloging nerd.
Thank you for all of your hard work, Amy.
Yeah, appreciate your persistence.
It's been my role behind the scenes while I'm not managing and the doors are closed. I'm not greeting guests. It's been a great opportunity to get this done. And based on my personality, I'm just frustrated that I can't get it to 100%, but the archives will probably take quite a while to get through. So I have just had to learn to accept that, but we've come a very long way.
Yeah,
So.
that's exciting. I did wonder, I know from my limited time looking for things in the archives, a lot of those things in there had the T temporary numbers. And it seems that in a conversation a while back, you said something about that you could see a purpose for those. So are you renumbering anything, or are the numbers staying the same?
So I've kept things the same. Nothing's changed. I've spent the time on basically what this year has been about is getting things from not in the database to in the database, or updating with a photo and location. Those are the key things. And then going forward into the future, I'd love to be able to, of course, make sure that we're entering better search terms, more specific titles, things that are going to make it even better in the years going forward. But for now, it's mostly just get it in the system, period, so that it is searchable.
Right. And I didn't mean to suggest that I thought you should be doing any of that. I just wasn't sure what. So even things with the temporary numbers, they're there and there. You can search and find them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the T numbers have actually proven to be valuable because they set themselves apart as something that needs further research, which is good to know when you find that record.
Okay, so. Because my explanation of what they were from prior people was kind of vague, and I didn't understand exactly what they were. So thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
And all your hard work.
To be honest, T numbers are a thing that no one has the same understanding of what they are. Like there's not a clear, concise, like across the board reasoning. Every organization uses them differently. And because you're never left with a user's manual for how things are cataloged or how T numbers are assigned by predecessors, it can get really confusing. So Amy, I appreciate the fact that you're seeing the positive in having a T number.
Yeah.
And what Carly and I did was, once we started here, we stopped giving items T numbers. So there's a distinction between items that are clearly in our past ledgers and catalogs and have been here and have been cataloged historically. Items that are T numbers, which are from past staff. And now that Carly and I are here, we give things actually an FIN number, which is found information needed. So we know that it's something that we've personally found in the collection. So there's a time, it helps with just knowing a distinction of when it was found, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
It does.
yeah.
So we don't mix up T numbers as being something that's been here, you know, from older days, that it's something that we did find recently. And we can still be checking back
Right.
through your catalog records and ledgers for that information, but at least in the meantime, it's in the system and it's searchable.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Great.
Yeah.
Did you have any more numbers for us? Those are amazing numbers.
Well, let's see. 493 packed tagged boxes.
Wow.
So that's good.
Wow.
That means they've been green tagged by me, meaning everything in the box is in our system with a location number and a photograph, and it's good to go to be moved. The
Wow.
entire textile collection's been gone through. The entire tool collection's been gone through. So yeah, we've just plugged away at so much. We've also developed the new Holt exhibit, which in the work that Vicky's researching is going to be a part of that exhibit. So it's going to be the industry area. I think that's it for numbers. I have some other things we can discuss. If anybody has questions, please jump in.
I don't know that I have questions, but it's exciting. I'm sorry, Jasper, you were going to say something?
Well, it's not specific to that. I had a couple of questions kind of about space in the future and about the museum, not science fiction or anything, but I guess I was curious, you know, with the pandemic, I'm sure they probably looked at the ventilation of the museum, and so it's all pandemic and future pandemic, maybe more friendly. So there's that was one question. And then there was some interesting research done. I didn't share it because I didn't want you to feel any pressure in the sense that, I mean, I don't think we should be open to the public right now. But, you know, and hopefully by the time we do open, the world will be a, you know, safe place to open. But there was some interesting research about museums being, you know, basically one of the safest public places to be and one of the least likely places to catch, you know, this virus and by implication, most other diseases. So even after it is safe, there may be people who don't necessarily feel safe and might take a while to feel safe even after it's safe. So anyway, there is kind of interesting research available if it would be helpful or you know, reassuring to people when the museum does open. And then my last question was just, I noticed that the Robin's Roost was vacating their space, and I don't know if you have any you know, short-term, long-term thoughts about that space with the museum. I mean, it might be a good storage space, or is it kind of beyond the pale of something to think about, either kind of in the shorter, longer-term future?
So I guess I'll address the Robin's Roost bit first. I mean, don't get me wrong. My dream would be for us to use that space as our storage because it would give us so many more opportunities. But I would like to get through this construction before I bring up the topic of another building. But there hasn't been any further conversation about that. As for like filtration and whatnot for air quality, so there has not been really much of anything done in our current location, and that's mostly because there is a filtration system that's in there, but it's mostly to the basement and dealing with the basement in post-flooding whatnot. Because of the fact there's only 2 of us in the building and we're not in at the same time, it's not the same level of concern as other public government buildings.
Yeah, I must have meant the new building if they're looking at filtration for the new building. So sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. So yeah, that is a piece of it. I know that our HVAC system is, I believe it's on par. I will double check on this and I will get back to you on this. But I believe it's on par with what's in the city's building. Because it doesn't really make sense to have another government building that is not at the same quality. But I will dig a little bit deeper into that and let you know.
And I knew it wasn't a great timing for the Robin's Roost, but kind of maybe long term, that might be something to think about.
Yeah.
So they are going to be gone? Is that, I know there's been numerous ownership changes allegedly or something, but I didn't know they were, I don't get downtown much anymore.
The signage indicates that it's like their last weekend.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know for sure.
Did you have anything more, Carly or Amy, in your report?
No, we really don't. We're honestly, just the fact that we could potentially be in a new site by August is huge. It's the biggest news we've had in months.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a question from a member of the Independence Days committee, which was just how can the museum be involved in that, knowing that our doors will be closed? So something to think about for future discussions we have would be just to think about in what ways is the museum's news about potentially opening soon after that? What might we want to do or say around the 4th of July? So I haven't given any thought yet, but I wanted to put out there that the question was asked of me.
Yeah.
And it's tricky because we will be closed. So it's, I don't know how the museum would want to be involved.
Yeah.
But it sounded like before when we talked to the city that there wasn't a lot of plan for the outside of the building in terms of, murals or signage or anything, but that might be something to think about. Is there something we can put outside the building that either preview the historic signs or something that people can see from the outside, or just kind of signage that indicates the museum is coming. But that is exciting, and I mean the location of the museum is really good.
Oh yeah, it's just
for all those things.
Now I do have a
late.
question about right behind. I'm sorry, John. Did I cut you off?
No,
Is there any parking at all right behind the building? Okay.
No, we do not. The city does not own any of that.
Okay.
There's like a small right away that's literally right on the wall of where Robin's Roost is, where like the electrical wires go through there, where there previously was a bus sitting there that is no longer sitting there.
Right.
But it's just for maintenance. It's not suitable for anything.
Oh, okay. Because I had heard about that bus being moved out and I didn't know if that was, so that's not really a true parking area. And that's a privately owned lot. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
Is this the gravel parking lot next to it? Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I know like some of the people that work on C Street have rented spaces there. So, the society, other than Nathan's enthusiasm for videos, is there anything with a society update? They're going to be meeting again?
Yeah, they're going to be meeting next month. They're preparing to figure out how much they want to pull from the community fund. And they're just going to have a general conversation. I know that there's most likely going to be some new spots opening up on the society's executive board. And so if you know anybody that's interested or might be a good addition, please send them our way, because it'd be really nice to have a full board.
It would be. And I'm assuming that the ladies who own the restaurant downtown are they the ones who have left the board?
It's indicating that they are no longer
Okay.
with the board.
So there is Lois Martin and Nathan and Kurt are still there.
And Diana Lindstrom.
Oh, okay.
Lindskog,
That's
sorry,
right.
I
Diana
apologize,
Lindskog came
Lindskog.
back. Okay, I'd forgotten. Good.
Mhm.
Well, here we are to the other items. Have we covered all the other items?
Yeah.
It's nice to see everybody and John's name. We miss your face.
Well, I know Vicky asked this while you were gone, John, but I think this would be an appropriate time to follow it up. Were there any historic trees that were damaged by the ice storm?
Oh, gosh. You know, to tell you the truth, I don't know. I don't know because when I was driving around just seeing damage everywhere, I never did really go and take that tree list. That's a really good question. That's a great question.
Yeah, I have been.
I know that one of them, there's a big cedar that died that I don't know. I mean, need to talk to Fred about that when they die. How does the city pushing them to go ahead and get it down before it falls,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah. I have to give
That
a
is a
huge
good
round of
point.
applause for Public Works, though. Public Works has done a really phenomenal job of making sure everything's cleaned up in a fast manner.
Yeah, they've been amazing. It's so sad when I go down my street, that huge weeping willow, I guess that's what it was, tree that was there is still in pieces, and they're waiting for an arborist available, I guess, to be able to come out and do something. But I did hear from a neighbor that they were told that there is hope that from the trunk that's remaining, that it's not totally dead, because it didn't split. It just, well, it didn't split down to the ground. So, but
Yeah, there's so many trees right now that people are going to go ahead and prune them and then realize in a year or two that really it was an atrociously looking thing that's either unsafe or unhealthy, and end up removing them in a few years. But it's also, there's just going to be tons of tree work for those guys. I wish I was 10 years younger,
yeah.
I heard when your group was discussing the historic trees in the community, and mine was mentioned as like a funky old tree. Just so you know, it made it.
Yeah. I did actually drive along your street not long ago, and I did glance over and thought, oh, okay, well, I don't know if it lost any limbs, but it's still there, the main structure.
Yeah, it lost a large limb, but it made it, and it really truly is a funky old tree. So we're glad it made it.
Yeah.
I did have an idea. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but for 4th of July, if there are videos done or ready, I mean, we could maybe put a screen in the window or something, and people could kind of watch it through the window, or kind of
Yeah.
have something for people to see if they come.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Have it on a loop or something.
And I kind of have plans for some of the layout stuff we're working on for the new location. One of the things I want, but of course we haven't met, we haven't been able to discuss these things. Even Carly and I haven't talked at length about the new layout, but I would like to put a screen in the agriculture exhibit. So if we find a screen to do that, then we have use for it in the future, wink. So that would be great.
Yeah, that sounds great. Wow.
I did think of something else to add as an additional item. If I don't know if you guys have talked with Fred as far as the signage, because being in the historic district, signs matter.
Right.
So that is something where it's not too early to be talking with him about how best to do that.
Okay, that's a good reminder. I'll shoot him an email and set up a time to chat.
Okay, and I didn't ask, I probably should have at the beginning. Amy, were you taking notes?
Yes.
Okay, oh, good, because I've jotted down a few things and I thought, oh my gosh, if I have to make sense of these, I'm in trouble. So
you can, I've been typing minutes as we've gone, so.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
Well, it's good to see you and John's name. And do you think at this point we can go ahead and start scheduling meetings again? And
Yeah, I think it makes sense. We can go back to monthly meetings.
okay. Good. And maybe sometime soon in the not too distant future, they will get to be in person. I have one shot down. So
Yay.
yeah, the first time I've been
Yay.
glad to be old.
And now, and as soon as you get the second one, you can do pretty much anything at that point.
Yeah, that's kind of whole new world after a year. So, well, it's hard to say, okay,
Yeah,
we're
so-
leaving, but I guess Carly, if you want to close this out,
Yeah.
we'll adjourn.
Okay. Any last words, everybody?
Just thank you for all the work you've done in the interim while we haven't been meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll
we have-
second that.
We have all the quantitative numbers, but there's a lot of qualitative stuff too that also getting done. I appreciate it.
Right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for being a wonderful board. Very supportive. We really appreciate it. And we wouldn't be here without you.
Oh,
Definitely.
and we wouldn't want to be here without you guys. So,
And it's going to be a
That's
great
right.
space.
That's well said, Vicky. Well said. All right, John out.
Bye,
Okay.
John.
Bye, everybody.
bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.